Good afternoon, and welcome to the session on tracking user behavior on Experience Cloud using Data Cloud. And how many of you or your customers are using Experience Cloud? Everyone, almost everyone. That's really good. So today we are going to be talking about how you can track whatever is happening on the website and how you can take action on all of that data. So before we jump in any further, the forward-looking statements, which basically says, please make all your purchasing decisions based on generally available information and not based on anything I might say today. And I would like to really thank all of you for being here. We are in day 3 of Dreamforce, almost towards the end of the day. So thank you all for taking the time out of your schedule and making this a part of your agenda. So my name is Aditya, and I work as a developer advocate with Salesforce, and my job is to ensure all of you are successful in building applications on the Salesforce platform. So with that, we will jump right into our topic today, which is the Web SDK and how you can use Data Cloud's features in order to track user behavior. But before that, at a very high level, here is how Data Cloud works. So Data Cloud is that one platform that lets you create a single source of truth of your customers by getting their data from multiple systems and consolidating it in one place. And it's not just that, you can even take action on that data. So once you have that single source of truth, you can put it to use inside your Salesforce platform or even push it to external systems to take action over there, like Google Ads, Marketing Cloud, and so on. Now, today we are interested in the first part of this diagram, which is data ingestion. Now, whenever you talk about data coming in from multiple systems, that one system that most customers are going to have in common is a website. Because the web revolution has come in like 20 years ago, and we are at a place where everybody has a website. And there's a lot of information being generated on that website about user behavior. How long are they staying on a page? Are they clicking on a product? How long are they viewing a product? What all links are they clicking? What are they interested in? So there's a lot of behavioral patterns of a user you can establish from how they browse a given website. So for that, Data Cloud gives you a tool called the Web SDK. So Web SDK is nothing but a very simple JavaScript library that you embed in any of your websites. So it need not be built on Salesforce, and it need not even be Experience Cloud. So Web SDK is a script that you can put on any website that you want. And this script gives you a few methods that you call in order to track the user behavior on those websites. For example, there is a method that lets you track who the user is. Because not every time you will be knowing who the user on the website is. What if they are a guest user? They haven't given you any data yet, but they're still browsing on your website, and that data is important as well. Now, once they are browsing, they decide to buy your product, and then they give their email address. So that's when they become a known user. So with the Web SDK, you get to track all of that. Apart from that, you can also track everything that happens on the website, like any event, like button clicks, page views, can be tracked using methods on the Web SDK. And Web SDK is something that we best recommend for externally hosted websites. So this is the websites that are not on Salesforce, not built using Experience Cloud. Now, why is that? It's because we have something special for websites built using Experience Cloud, and that is what today's session is all about. Now, typically, you need to set up the Web SDK to be able to start using it. So there are 2 steps in this process. The first step is to set it up on Data Cloud, and the second step is to add it to your website. So on Data Cloud, you first define a connector. So connector establishes a connection between 2 systems. It's very simple. You click new, and the connector is already created for you. Now, the most important step that you need to do after creating a connector is define and upload a schema. So a schema is something that tells the Web SDK and Data Cloud what kind of events are going to be coming in from your website. And for each kind of event, what is the data type of all the fields inside that event. So essentially, schema is nothing but a list of events, the fields that each event captures, and the data type of each of those fields. So that's something that you'll have to define on a connector. So once you have the connector, once you have the schema set up, that is when you go ahead and create a data stream. So data stream is Data Cloud's way of getting all the data into Data Cloud. So whether it is Web SDK, whether it is Salesforce, any data source that you can think of, data stream is that one way to get data in. And once you get the data into Data Cloud, you're going to have to map it to data model objects. So this mapping is to ensure there is a consistent data format that you can work with down the line. So again, setting up the mappings is not very specific to Web SDK. Any data source, you get any data that you want, you map the data to what we call a data model object. Now all of this goes on the Data Cloud side. Now once you define your connector and upload a schema, what you get is a unique URL, which is a link to that JavaScript library that you have to embed in the website. So that's what you do. You take that JavaScript file and you embed it inside your external website. And then you have to write some code in order to initialize the SDK on the website. It's just one line, not to worry too much about it. Now, the most important thing on the website, apart from embedding the SDK, is to capture consent. Because we are tracking a lot of data, behavioral aspects of a user. And you have to have the consent of the user to be able to do so. If not, you will be out of compliance. So consent is something that you'll have to capture. And Web SDK gives you the methods to capture consent as well. So you need not think about how do I do this. There are methods, you just call those methods and consent is captured. Finally, once consent is captured, that is when you go ahead and capture all the different events that you want from the website. Now this is something that you'll have to do if you want to integrate the Web SDK with any external website that you want. Now what about Experience Cloud? Experience Cloud is something that is built on the same platform, on the same Salesforce platform, where Data Cloud is present, Experience Cloud is present on the same platform, your custom objects are present on the same platform. So it's all the same platform we are working with. So what can we do to make your job easier when tracking this on Experience Cloud? So we have a built-in integration that we have built between Experience Cloud and Data Cloud that automates most of the steps that you have just seen. But this integration is only available on enhanced LWR sites. If you are using Experience Cloud, the Aura version of it, like the Aura websites, then you'll have to go through the Web SDK flow that I showed you previously. If you're using enhanced LWR, it's just enabling an integration. Now, what does this integration do? I told you it automates most of the setup, but what all is automated and what all do you need to still do manually? So the entire sequence on Data Cloud is completely automated. So we create a connector, we define the schema, because we know what events that are generally tracked. So we have a standard schema that we automatically create. And then we create a data stream and we also map all of the data to the data model objects. All of this is already done once you enable the integration. What we also do on Experience Cloud is we embed the SDK as well. But this happens in a slightly different way. We will talk about it in the next slide. But embedding the SDK also happens automatically. So what do you need to do after you enable the integration is to capture consent. So this is still in your hands. So you will have to capture consent in whatever way you want. You build your own component or you have your own flow. You have an external consent management system to integrate with. It's up to you. But you will have to capture consent. Now once you capture consent, we automatically start tracking a lot of events. Now the thing with Experience Cloud, as you all know, is that we offer a lot of standard out-of-the-box components. Right from complex components like carousel to simple components like rich text. So events happening on all of these standard components are automatically tracked. You need not do anything else apart from capturing consent. But let's say you have created a custom Lightning Web component to be added to the site, then you will have to capture events from that custom Lightning Web component yourself. So anything standard is already tracked. Anything custom, you will have to track it on your own. Now, that's what you need to do. Anything in the white box is something that you'll have to do. Green, we have taken care of it. Now, we are going to talk about the Experience Tag Manager. So what is the Experience Tag Manager? So let's say you have these events that you're capturing on the website. Typically, what you would expect when you use the Web SDK is that these events are directly sent to Data Cloud. But that's not the case with Experience Cloud. We have a layer in between that we call the Experience Tag Manager. And why is this layer present? Let's take an example. Let's say you have a button and a user clicks a button. What can you track looking at just the button? All you can track is what is the button that has been clicked and who's the user that has clicked the button. But there's a lot more data that you can use to enrich this event. For example, what is the browser that they have used? Is this browser in a mobile view or a desktop view? What is the operating system that they have used? What is the page from which this button has been clicked? So there's a lot more data that can be used to enrich your event so that it is useful to you whenever you want to pull any report or do some automation. Now, do you want to do this manually all the time? The answer is no, right? So that is why Experience Tag Manager is there, where instead of you sending the event directly to Data Cloud, on Experience Cloud, you send the events to the Experience Tag Manager. And the Experience Tag Manager then enhances your event with a lot of site data, whether it is your site ID, because you can create multiple Experience Cloud sites on your org. So which org or which site did this event come from? So we add that data. We add the URL. We add the referring URL. We add a lot more details that you're going to see in a demo in just a little bit. So all of this data is going to be used to enrich your event, and we automatically send that event to Data Cloud. So Experience Tag Manager is that layer for enrichment. So all you do is send an event to the ETM, and ETM sends the data back to Data Cloud. So that's how it works. Now to show you an example, so this is a small code snippet on how do you send an event to the Experience Tag Manager. If you are familiar with Lightning Web Components, this is how you send any event. So first you define what is the name of the event. In this case, it is going to be Experience Interaction. It's going to be the same for any event that you send. All you do is send an Experience Interaction event because this is what goes to the Experience Tag Manager. But what kind of an event it is what you define in the name. So it's a button click event or whatever it is that you want to send. So this is the name of the event itself that you're tracking. And then you can send in any other attributes that you want. Like once a link is clicked, what is the name that is present on the link? What is the URL to which it is going to? Any attributes that you want, you can track. So as you see, you're only sending very minimal details, like the button click and the label. But let's see how it translates to a Web SDK event. The Experience Tag Manager adds a whole lot of details. So if you see your details, the details that you have passed is just the link label and the type of the event. But then we have added the site ID, screen height, screen width, the component from which it has come. So a lot more details have been added before it is sent to the Web SDK. So this is just an example of how things work. But let's look at a demo to really understand how you can implement this in your own org. By the way, all of this is available right now, so you can go back and enable this in your orgs if you're using an enhanced LWR site. So here we are in Experience Builder. I'm hoping this UI looks familiar to all of you if you have used the builder. So here is a simple site that I have built for a fictitious company called eBikes. Essentially, they sell electric bikes, and they have built a public-facing website for customers to browse through their catalog. So what I've added here is a bunch of standard components. So here we have a rich content editor with a link. Then I have HTML, and then I have added a standard button. All of this directly dragged and dropped from the component panel. I also have a few custom components over here. And, okay. Let's figure out the charging. Hopefully this should be done before my battery runs out. All right, so what we'll quickly see is the settings. So inside settings, you have integrations, and integrations is where you enable Data Cloud integration. So if you have not enabled it, it will show add to site. If you have enabled it, it will show it as enabled. Now this is all the setting that you need to do. Go to your site, go to integrations, and click enable, and that's all. Now in the background, we go ahead and create a connector. So Experience Cloud Event Connector, this is a standard event connector that we create. And this is the schema that we automatically add. Now notice, it is a rich schema. We create a lot of events, and each event is tracking a lot of data, and the data type of each of these events is also visible to you. So this is something that automatically gets created. You didn't have to do anything. Now we also go ahead and create these data streams. I think I'm running out of battery. If you give me just 1 second. Is there a charger on the...
In the house?
Yeah, on the laptop podium? No? Because I didn't carry. Okay. Yeah, sure. Thank you. Oh, this is lightning. It doesn't work.
Sorry, my cat got it before I came.
Okay, no problem. Okay. Yep, I think we are set. Okay, yep. Lifesaver, thank you. All right, so all these different streams are also created automatically. And if you notice, there are different streams for, let's say, the identity, like who is the user that is accessing your website, and also party identification. So these are different standard streams. If you work with Data Cloud, you will get to know what each of these is for. Most importantly, we capture all the behavioral events. So this is the activity that is happening on the website. Now, along with defining the stream, we also map all of this data to standard data model objects. Now notice there's a lot of mapping, so you realize how much we are automating behind the scenes. So on your website, you can track different types of events. For example, we have the cart event. Somebody adds an item to a cart, that gets tracked as an event, and so on and so forth. So each of these events, based on the event type, we map it to a different data model object. For example, you have the shopping cart engagement. Any event of type cart gets automatically transferred to the shopping cart engagement data model object. Now similarly, you have a lot more standard objects, but let's say it doesn't fall into any category. You're defining a custom event of your own, so where does that go? All of it goes into a fallback data model object called website engagement. So if you use any of the standard events, we have standard data model objects to which data gets mapped to. If not, then there is this fallback data model object where you can track all your events from. And where can you see all of these events? So all of these events are present in the documentation. For each different type of event, let's say if it is a cart event, then you have different interaction names like cart add, remove, replace, update, so on and so forth. So look at the documentation and figure out if you can leverage a standard event. But you only need to do this if you're using a custom component. If you're using standard components, then all these are event types that we have automatically defined behind the scenes. So the events are going to get transferred across. So this is the basic setup. Behind the scenes, all of this goes through. Now what do you need to do? As I mentioned, the first thing you need to do is capture consent. So if you notice at the bottom, I have created a very simple component in order to capture consent with 2 buttons, that is opt-in and opt-out. And this is the code for that. So 2 buttons, opt-in and opt-out. And if you look at the code behind the scenes, whenever I click on opt-in, I'm actually dispatching a custom event. Notice I'm sending it to the experience interaction, which is I'm sending the event to the experience tag manager. And what is the type of event I'm sending? It is set consent. Again, you can find all of this in the documentation. If consent is given, set it to true. If consent is revoked, set it to false. Now there is only one catch over here. It's that the experience tag manager retains the value of this consent only when the duration of the page is active. So whenever you refresh the page or whenever you go to a different tab and come back, this consent value is not retained. So which is why what you'll have to do is build in your own mechanism of how you want to store the consent and persist it throughout the session. So if the user is logged in, obviously the moment they accept, you can store it in a field. If not, then what I'm doing here is I'm storing it in the browser local storage. So that way, each time the page refreshes, I'm able to send in the event automatically. So this is something that you'll have to do to send consent. Now again, if you think this is complex, then not to worry, because very soon in the upcoming releases, we are going to be coming up with an out-of-the-box standard consent component that you can use that eliminates all of this effort. But today, this is what you'll have to do. And then here I have a few custom events that I'm dispatching. For example, if you remember the tiles that I have shown you, whenever a user clicks on a tile, I'm actually dispatching a different event of type catalog object click. It's a standard event type that I'm dispatching. If somebody changes a filter, then I'm tracking that event as well. So essentially the same syntax that is being followed, irrespective of what event you want. You send it to an experience interaction, define the name, and any additional data that you want to pass along with your event. So with this, let's actually go and see how it looks in the UI. So here I have the site, and I've already accepted the consent. So the moment I refresh the page, we start tracking the events. So for example, we track the page view event. The moment somebody views a page, that event is tracked. Whenever the user scrolls all the way to the bottom of the page, that event is tracked as well. For example, you see here, there is this event that is tracked. If I scroll all the way down, you can see a different event being tracked. And then all of these are standard components. Let's say I click on this button, the button click event is being tracked. And whenever I change the category filter, there is a different event being tracked. Now, if you want to go and look at the details of what event has been tracked, then you can just copy this content. Essentially, this is base64 encoded. So you can find any online tool that decodes base64. And what you can see is the event that is being sent. So for example, this is the first event, which is the page view event. Whenever you have viewed a page, that is what is being sent, along with all the other rich details. And the second one obviously is going to be page scroll to the bottom, but let's look at the last event, which is from my custom component. So again, it is base64, decode it, and what you can see here is the filter update, which is my custom event that I sent from a component. And I've enriched it with what are the values present in the filter. For example, I only chose commuter, so that has gone out. So in a nutshell, what I tried to show you here is how simple it is to start tracking user behavior on your websites. All you do is enable the integration, and most of it comes to you out of the box. If you are using custom components, just define a few custom events, and then you are set. So that was a very quick demo, but if you want to learn more, there's actually a lot more in terms of session management, how do you track user behavior, and what if you want to track additional attributes. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes, and if you want to capture all of that, I've written a blog post that gives you all of this different information. So please scan this QR code and look at the blog post, and you can reach out to me anytime with feedback, questions. And with that, I would like to say thank you for making this a part of your agenda. Hope this was a good use of your time, and thank you so much, I don't know your name, for the charger. It was really life-saving. All right, thank you.